o'clock in the morning. We're just right here to just make sure that your morning goes great and goes in a very good way. I'm sitting in for Vincent Kerosi, who is actually on a business. A business leave. But actually, what are you going to be doing today? We have a lot that we've aligned for you today. Of course, matters to do with what has been happening in the country for the last few days, whereby we have Raila Odinga has had, of course, taken a rest from politics, and of course, he said that he was taking a rest from the shock that he experienced in the just outgoing elections. And of course, he'll also be looking at what is happening in the newspapers, looking at William Ruto. He had some meeting with his MPs from Kenya Kwanza, and also Raila Odinga from the Azimio side had a meeting with his MPs. Now that's the conversation that we'll be having right here. And of course, later on, we'll also be having a conversation about mobile loans. What is happening? What is eating the other? But now, without far much ado, let's look at what is happening on our roads today with the traffic updates. Let's look at what is happening on our roads. Well, welcome back again. We're right here for the traffic news update, and what is happening on the road is that I can say that right there in Mlolongo, that is Mombasa Road, the road seems to be a bit clear. There's no bit of a snarl up. The road seems to be a bit clear, seems a bit to be clear. But around Koja Junction, Koja roundabout, seems to be having a snarl up as you enter towards the CBD, and of course as you enter from the CBD from using a thicker road. So if you're going to use that route, then kindly make sure that maybe you can use an alternative route, because it seems that that place is quite overwhelmed with some traffic. Now on Langata Road, as you enter CBD via Nyayo Stadium, now the entrance, the road that side seems to be a bit congested. So kindly, if you're going to use that route, kindly make sure that you can also maybe try to use some other alternative routes, or maybe you can also try using some other means to know how you can get to the CBD. Well, if I look at the CBD, the CBD is quite a bit congested. I'm trying to look at the CBD. It seems to be a bit congested as you head to University Way around University of Nairobi. The road seems to be a bit congested. So kindly, if you're going to use that route, just to make sure that you enter or you access the CBD, you can actually try to use some other means. If you can maybe use border, or maybe use some other simple means. Now as you walk out of Nairobi using the Jogoo Road seems also to be a bit to also have some snarl up, and also Murang'a Road, that is about the Koja Junction. Other place also seems to be a bit it's Globe Roundabout, sorry for that. Globe Roundabout seems to be a bit congested at that point. So make sure kindly, if you're going to use such roads and you want to access the Nairobi CBD, you can make sure that maybe you can use some alternative means. And of course, if you're using the roads, kindly let's stay safe. Make sure that you consider your friend, because you are the eye of your other person who is on the road. Kindly let's maintain safety on our roads this good morning. We don't want to hear cases whereby we're reporting about accidents happening here and there. Well, that's much more about traffic updates. Well, just after that is just a newspaper review, whereby now we're going to look at deeply and briefly what is happening in our newspapers. Well, welcome back right here in the Kirk in the morning, whereby right now is the newspaper review segment, whereby we'll be reviewing Daily Nation. Will be with me, his Daily Nation and the Standard, whereby we will be talking about what is happening. And of course, the Standard has hit the headlines. But of course, this is what we'll be talking about in a few. Just don't go far. Alright, welcome back to the newspaper review. Now, let's hop just directly into the CBK or in the Standard newspaper, whereby it has hit the headlines about the CBK boss, that is the Central Bank Governor Patrick Njoroge, who has actually talked about what is happening in the Central Bank of Kenya. Now, just to remind you, all this conversation is right there on our social media platforms. You can also converse with us. Just reach out with us at Munene Official on Twitter and Kirk TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Kirk in the morning. That is the conversation we'll be having today. I beg your pardon for that. That's the conversation that we'll be having today. And of course, like I had promised you earlier on, is that today we'll be discussing matters to do with mobile loans and digital loans, as much as loans, and of course what a Central Bank Governor Patrick Njoroge had said, or rather made a statement earlier on this week. And the Standard newspaper right there says that the Central Bank of Kenya governor told MPs that a golden bag-like scheme was hatched by some rogue banks during the heated political season that led to shilling slump to historic lows. Though hesitant to name culprits, the governor laid bare difficulties the new government faces in managing economy going forward. You can hear right there is that we have the governor of the Central Bank of Kenya stating in that in the outgoing government of President Uhuru Kenyatta found itself in a quite devastating moment of maybe what could be termed as maybe extravagance, maybe rather use of extra cash in the government. Well, as we move on, in relation to that, actually this is the topic that we'll be having today. Like I had promised you, I'll be having a guest today. However, we'll be talking about matters to deal with mobile loans and digital loans. And of course, you remember that in 2019, the CBK governor, that is Patrick Njoroge, himself made a claim and also say that we need to regulate digital lenders in the country. But I don't want to preempt what we'll be having today. Let's proceed on the Standard, whereby 3.6 billion for cheap fertilizer, whereby you had William Ruto during his inauguration ceremony that was held in Kasarani. He said that he's going to lower the prices of fertilizers, and actually that is what happened yesterday with different fertilizers from CAN, urea, DAP costing with different prices. It's actually a lump sum of money from the actual cost that was there earlier on. Well, moving on is that IG is sued over corruption on highways. Those are some of the stories that are right here on the Standard. And of course, we have visitors with Ebola symptoms to be isolated, says health officials. You remember yesterday in Uganda reported the first case of Ebola in that country. Now it has become it has just raised alarm to East African countries, whereby now it's actually being considered as one of the dangerous diseases. Of course, you know, it's a tragic disease that once attacked Africa and some other countries, and of course now the country and of course the region must stay safe. Now let's move on. On page 4 of the Standard is that we had speakers of the county assemblies being sworn in yesterday. Of course, in some counties we had the speakers being sworn in. And of course, we are aware that in some counties the speakers were not yet sworn in. Well, that's just those are just some of the stories right here on the Standard. And of course, we have on page 5, Raila's headache as discontent threatens ODM top leadership. You know, of course, we had an issue last week whereby Raila Odinga and where Raila Odinga of the Azimio la Umoja, it's not actually Raila Odinga in person, but the leadership of the party said that there was a tussle between Azimio la Umoja and the Kenya Kwanza coalition, whereby both coalitions had stated earlier on that both of them actually have a big number in the National Assembly and in the Senate. We don't know how these things turn out to be. We'll just be looking into them and wait and see what unpacks in the National Assembly. So moving on forward is, of course, how farmers are reacting after the fertilizer being available at NCPB, that is the National Cereals and Production Board, whereby now you see the fertilizers have been subsidized to very little amount that is actually affordable to the mwananchi. That is according to what William Ruto had stated earlier on, actually on his campaigns, and he says that he has actually started to perform his duties. Now, moving on to the Daily Nation, let's look at what is trending or what has hit the headlines on Daily Nation. We have an explanatory there of how Raila lost, and of course it gives just a know-how of what happened, what led to Raila's loss in the just outgoing or the just concluded general elections that were held on the 9th of August 2022. Well, there's also now another story that is hitting the headlines. We have 55 billion Kenyan shillings that is still in question in the outgoing government of Uhuru Kenyatta. But it is said that in the last days of Uhuru Kenyatta as a president of the Republic of Kenya, 55 billion Kenya shillings got lost. Well, this just as a report given by the Auditor General sometimes back last night, or rather yesterday. He said that some 55 billion cannot be accounted for in the outgoing government of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. It's a story that you'll find deeply on page 2 and page 3 of the Daily Nation. Well, moving on is that doubts over maize flour subsidies caused delays payments for millers. Now, this is just a story about, it's a story concerning about the subsidies that the outgoing government of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta had put in place. But it said that actually in this subsidy program, a whopping amount of around 7 billion Kenya shillings got lost in this subsidy program. Well, it's just a story that we're still also following up. And of course, you know that the government of His Excellency William Ruto have said that it is not going to provide any subsidies for these products, because William Ruto himself said and stated that these subsidies cost the mwananchi much more than even the cost of production. So William Ruto had said earlier on that he will invest in production rather than subsidizing products that are largely used in the country. Now, why Raila fifth stab at the presidency came a cropper? Well, that's the explanatory. It's an explainer actually of why Raila Odinga, right there is a photo of Raila Odinga and the running mate Martha Karua having a conversation there. It's an explainer of why Raila Odinga came to lose in the just outgone elections which were held in the country on the 9th of August. And of course, after that, you know, they had to file a case in the Supreme Court concerning about the win of William Ruto. Blame game over Raila election loss. Now, there are some cracks in Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya coalition. These are just, well, we've had different parliamentarians saying that, well, it was a long con. That was Babu Owino, was quoted sometimes back last week, saying that in Azimio, we had some cracks. We had people who pretended to be aligned to us, but later on just to come and realize is that Azimio la Umoja, according to Babu Owino, says that in the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya is that there was a long con that took place that led to the win of William Samoei Ruto as the president of the Republic of Kenya and the loss of Raila Odinga. Well, that's a blame game in the Azimio house, in the Azimio heart. You can just grab a newspaper on the Daily Nation on page 6 and get to know more about that. Well, at that point, I do not have much more to say about the newspaper review. It's just at this place that we are going now to wrap it up, all the newspaper updates and what has been happening in the country. Now, just to tell you what is happening, we're going to have a discussion immediately after these about money and mobile loans, or rather call them digital loans that have been offered by nearly 288 digital lenders in the country. Keep it Kirk TV. Follow our conversation. Follow this conversation on our socials at Kirk TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Kirk in the morning. Well, welcome back once again. I'm your host, Dennis Munene, and of course, like I had promised you, is that we're going to have just a long conversation and a deep one about what is happening in the country. Of course, we have millions of Kenyans who are suffocating or are suffering from the issue of mobile loans in the country. A conversation that we'll be unpacking right here on Kirk TV. Follow our conversation at Kirk TV Kenya at Munene Official. Use the hashtag Kirk in the morning. Do you prefer we go no Fuliza or with Fuliza? Go with Tala or no Tala? And some other digital lending apps in the country. You name them. Right here on Kirk TV. Well, we're going to take a very short quick break. But after this, we're coming back with the full topic. Losing a beloved one can be one of the hardest life experiences. Death brings a total change in many setups, the family taking a huge position. Death also provides an opportunity to celebrate the departed and their achievements on earth. Kirk TV provides for you an opportunity to announce death and funeral at affordable fee. For more information, write to us via announcements at kirktv.org or call 011 00 90 647.
Where there is no vision, the people perish.
You'll find people talking about saying, we discussed this for the last 5 meetings or for the last 2 years or 3 years, but nothing seems to move.
Here on Effective Manager, we help you get leadership and managerial tips.
You cannot be popular in the workplace as a leader. You can only be respected because of being fair and providing leadership.
Strategy and board advisory.
You do not need to put in unnecessary and undue pressure.
Stimulate new ideas in leadership and management.
You get an opportunity to bring diverse views and ideas to a problem so that you can be able to identify a lasting solution.
You can't afford to miss The Effective Manager with Dr. David Muturi, Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. only on Kirk TV.
The application of the law does not select the rich or the poor.
People are supposed to take responsibility for their lives, but society has always looked frowned upon it.
Here we educate you on the laws of the land.
Adoption does not have so many hurdles and so many laws, and it's not difficult.
Matters related to administration of justice.
It's very difficult for you to inherit from an estate of a deceased if you're not a child or a bona fide wife.
Cover crime related topics.
Issues of torture are criminal issues that the government will take very stern action.
And many, many more.
Leave your worries with the lawyer. Let them go through, let them worry about how you will answer your questions. Let them worry about what you will say in court. They will guide you.
Sometimes the law is very difficult, but you have judges now to interpret the law.
Don't miss Know Your Laws Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. only on Kirk TV.
Next Monday on Rays of Hope.
God's grace is always sufficient.
The house, we were only happy when it was sunny, because the house was, the mabati zilikuwa zimetoboka kabisa. Huku kando ilikuwa imeraruka, like literally. I delayed joining school because my mom could not afford school fees.
Remember that God has a plan for you.
My mom is my hero.
Yeah.
She might not be learned, she might not be...
Join me this Monday on Rays of Hope program as we listen to the story of Ida Munzatsi on Kirk TV, 8 to 9 p.m.
So catch Fit to Live every Monday through Friday at 6:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Together, let's have fun, get fit, and stay healthy. My name is Ida Munzatsi. I'll be your host for this show. Remember, your health always matters.
All right, welcome back once again in the Kirk in the morning. It's actually a show that I'm sitting in for Vincent Kerosi right here, just to know what is happening in the country. Of course, this is a breakfast show whereby we try and unpack what is happening in the country and what has been happening actually from since the week began. Of course, a lot has been happening, and of course, like we had said yesterday, what hit headlines is that the government of President William Ruto has subsidized fertilizers, and now the farmers do not need to stay in agony for having expensive fertilizers in the shops and of course in the warehouses. Now, the government has started the distribution of subsidized fertilizer as the short rain season sets in. The Agriculture Ministry yesterday said 3.5 billion has been set alongside subsidies of a 1.4 million 50 kg bags of fertilizer. This is expected to offer some relief to farmers, but the hope for good harvest might be hampered by the expected late onset depressed rainfall. Now, the cost of a 50 kg bag of DAP and urea fertilizers are expected to sell at a maximum of 3,500, down from 6,500 Kenya shillings. Now, at this point is where now the joy comes in. This quantity will support cultivation for approximately 1.4 million acres. Well, they say that this commodity will be distributed at the National Cereals and Produce Board, that is the NCPB, depots and sub-depots in the country. And individual farmers will be entitled to a maximum of 100 bags of 50 kg of fertilizer. Well, that's said by the PS of Agriculture. Now, of course, that is what has been happening about in the agricultural sector, whereby yesterday the government released a subsidy of around 3.5 billion Kenya shillings, depending, or rather concerning the issue of fertilizers in the country. Well, now let's hop into our first story and what has been happening in the country. Of course, we have now the Central Bank of Kenya Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge has projected that fuel prices will drop by December, despite President William Ruto ending the subsidy. Speaking during the Members of Parliament induction, Njoroge said the fuel prices will drop depending on the international market as the cost has begun to drop due to normalcy in respective countries.
In the country.
You can see it had gone as far as $130 a barrel. That was in March. And now it has come down to about $93 a barrel. The expectation is that this will come down even more, to the point where we won't have to have the subsidies. You understand? So it's true, we eliminated the fuel subsidies on the I guess the super, etc., right? But on also the other products, including diesel, etc. So you have the price coming down, and therefore the gap is narrowing. So the pressure on the consumer and indeed on the government becomes less and less. But anyway, that's the expectation, but let's wait and see.
Well, that's the governor of Central Bank of Kenya, Patrick Njoroge himself, saying that and promising Kenyans that fuel prices will be going down as we head to December this year. Now, to other interesting topic is that lawyer Miguna has finally received his passport. After close to 5 years since his exile, talking on social media on Tuesday evening, the embattled lawyer said the President William Ruto had ensured the processing of his passport, which sets the stage for his documents to return in Kenya. To the outspoken lawyer, he did not need to sign any documents as previously ordered for him to get the travel documents. Miguna now, Foreign Affairs Permanent Secretary Ambassador Kamau Macharia has attributed the numerous cases of mistreatment of migrant Kenyan workers in the Gulf states to the cultural differences between Kenyan workers and the Saudi employer. Speaking during the induction on there is a need for Kenyans traveling to the Gulf states to be trained on the cultural background of their employees. Now, this is what has been happening in the Saudi Arabia countries, or rather the Arabia countries, or maybe the United Emirates of Arabs. That is what has been happening right there. Well, let's hear what the Foreign Affairs Permanent Secretary Ambassador Kamau Macharia had to say about.
Culturally, unyenyekevu ule ambao unahitajika kazi zingine za nyumbani sio unyenyekevu ambao unapatikana sana kati ya watu wetu. So sometimes our people will not be so subservient, and when they go to these countries and they're under contract, and in a country like in Saudi Arabia, their traditions around housework are very ancient, let's put it that way. So you find that the people who suffer the terrible beatings, the people who suffer abuse are usually people who are of that category. In different capacities, in hotels, in transport, in taxis, we have no problem. So we have to ask ourselves, are we exporting the right category of personnel? And do they have the right capacity and training?
Well, welcome back. That is PS, that is the Permanent Secretary Ambassador Kamau Macharia talking about the issue that has been happening in the country. Of course, matters to do with the Saudi Arabia cases, whereby it's actually in the beginning of the month of, rather this month, when we had a case of Diana who was in Saudi Arabia. And she was alive, saved, and now she's back in the country. Of course, a lot is happening in that country, and of course, we'll be trying to get the insight of these stories and what has been happening in Saudi Arabia really. Now, moving forward is that the rift and rivalry between senators and members of parliament seems to have widened after the heated debate graced the commencement of the 5-day induction retreat in Nakuru County. The legislators demanded that their mandate is respected, protected, and clearly defined. According to the senators, they will accept further humiliation by the National Assembly.
This is an issue that we will have to grapple with. You will develop an interest as a member. You want to amend this, you want to amend that. But National Assembly, they always have issues with certain legislations that Senate has an interest.
Ubabe wetu ikiwa utaleta mtafaruko mpaka hatuwezi kupeana huduma kwa Wakenya, basi itakuwa ni jambo la kufedhehesha. Na kwenda mbele ni kwamba nimezungumza na kakangu ambaye ni spika wa bunge la kitaifa, na tumesema kwamba ikiwa hapo awali kulikuwa na mikwaruzano na ubabe, basi mikwaruzano ile na ubabe ule kwa sasa tutauzika katika kaburi la sahau.
That symmetrical bicameralism, as is the case now, has not found appropriate balance, and thus the need for constitutional changes, perhaps.
Sometimes they will do their own things, like the 28 legislations. 23 of them are matters actually affecting counties. But National Assembly went ahead and sent it to the President without concurrence of the Senate, of the Speaker of the Senate and the Senate. And I think that is where our speakers are supposed to be vigilant, and also the executive, to make sure that National Assembly, they don't pass things that are supposed to come to them.
Well, that's from senators and of course members of parliament. We've seen the speaker of the Senate, that is Amason Kingi, right there talking about the issue. Well, moving on to the next story is that the parliament induction retreat that happened yesterday. Now, of course, we had a retreat of the parliamentarians. Of course, they had a retreat and of course the induction, just to be taught on some of the do's and don'ts. Of course, we have very young politicians, some of them have just majored and found themselves in politics. Now, right here, let's just see what happened in the induction retreat of the parliamentarians.
May not know, honorable senators, we have a nursery, a creche in parliament. Members of parliament are getting younger and younger. Members coming to parliament are younger and younger, and provision is made for lactating mothers and a nursery where babies can be attended to as mothers undertake parliamentary business. There have been acquisition of more buildings to create more office space. You've seen the tower, the Bunge Tower coming up. Shortly it should be ready for occupation. Some of you have been unamused by the offices we have provided in KICC, but hopefully sooner rather than later you will be moving into better offices provided courtesy of the PSC.
Parliament is a very different institution because it is not like any other institution in the country. And most people have a problem with understanding how Parliament works. What do members of Parliament do? Do they just come to Parliament and talk, impress their constituents? Or what do they do in the process to make sure that they carry out the mandates that they have? And members of parliament, parliamentarians, that is both of MPs and senators, have got a very heavy mandate that it took a long time for the SRC to understand what kind of work parliamentarians are engaged in. And in getting the job description, because this is the only place where you'd find a mixture of people from the grassroots who people have trusted that they can come and legislate on their behalf and represent them at the national level, up to the level of professors. So we explained to the SRC that the issue of representation is a very complex issue is not as simple as they think it is. So over the last so many months, up to the time there was a Gazette notice, a lot of work has been done, and even then, it is a continuous engagement with the SRC to make sure that our people, our constituents, because as PSC, we look at you as our constituents because we represent your matters concerning welfare and facility.
Well, that's about the induction, of course, that was happening yesterday of the parliamentarians. Of course, you've heard him say that we heard, of course, we have most of the parliamentarians are actually new, so they actually need, and they are very young, actually, some of them, and they really need to be taken through some of the induction and some of the do's and don'ts in the parliament. So now, of course, so that's also something that is developing, of course, because we've heard that in the parliament there will also be a place that will be set aside about for the lactating mothers, and of course giving them a chance to express milk. Of course, that's a developing story that we didn't know that normally in the other parliaments and in the other parliaments that we could have such issues set aside. Now moving on to what is that the Ministry of Health in Uganda has confirmed an outbreak of the Ebola virus disease in Mubende district, Uganda. According to Uganda Health Permanent Secretary Diana Atwine, the first case being reported was of a 24-year-old man who presented with the Ebola symptoms, including fever and diarrhea, before succumbing. Samples collecting from the diseases confirmed that he had the virus from the Sudan strain. The World Health Organization has also confirmed this. Uganda last reported an outbreak in 2019.
On the 15th of September 2022, one suspected case of viral hemorrhagic fever was identified and isolated in Mubende Regional Referral Hospital. The patient was a 24-year-old male who lived in Ngabano village of Madudu sub-county in Mubende district. He was a referral from St. John's Medical Clinic in East Division of Mubende Municipality, where he had just been referred on that day. He presented with high fever, convulsions, blood-stained vomitus and diarrhea, the loss of appetite, and pain on swallowing. He also presented with chest pain, dry cough, and bleeding in the eyes. The provisional diagnosis at the time of referral to Regional Referral Hospital was pneumonia and diarrhea. Earlier on, this patient had been admitted in St. Florence Medical Clinic between 11th and 13th of September 2022, where he was managed as clinical malaria. While in isolation in Mubende Regional Referral Hospital, he deteriorated, developed the yellowing of eyes. He started passing out tea-colored urine and also complained of severe abdominal pain. Ministry of Health reminds the public to avoid physical contacts of anyone who has the
Well, another developing story right there in Uganda about Ebola outbreak. And of course, this is another call to you now as Zamwana Inchi to take care of yourself. Make sure that you stay safe and of course avoid all things that maybe and all the things that maybe could maybe lead you to having Ebola, because we're just from relieving ourselves from COVID-19 actually. It's in Uganda actually, but we as Kenyans also need to be careful because we do not know what happens tomorrow. So what you need to be and what you need to take caution of is that you stay safe. Now, moving on forward is that the county government of Kajiado has released an assortment of relief food worth 75 million Kenya shillings to the first batch of more than 20,000 households to be distributed across the 5 sub-counties. This is about a third of the 110,000 starving families identified by the National Drought and Management Authority, NDMA. As more families continue to slide into hunger, families after signs of the expected rains continue to diminish. According to the distribution schedule, the food package includes 6 kilos of rice, 4 kilos of maize, and 2 liters of cooking oil. Although the food was dispatched to all the wards, the need analysis shows Matapato, North and South, Leniskim Magandi, Lodokilani, Kenyokie, Kuku Imbirikani, Ewaso, Inkidong wards as most affected.
We have just dispatched as a first dispatch food worth 75 million to about 20,000 families, where each of our 5 sub-county will get 4,000 families. As a little relief support from the county government as a way of starting off our appeal for food for families and food for livestock towards the ongoing drought, which is reaching an emergency level. 3 weeks back, we met a number of our partners to appeal to their support, and we said as a county government we will lead from the front. While it is a sad situation to see the suffering of the people, it is gratifying to see that a few families tonight will get the little food from the county. And we have had two weeks of training our teams, starting from the village level up to the county level, to identify vulnerable families, affected people, affected areas. And this is just a way of starting this one off. We are now having teams in place. We have actually about 100,010 of them, and 50% of our livestock population, which is normally about 700,000, are in a very bad state as well. And so, with the structures in place, I want once more to appeal for that support. This is a whole government approach where the county government officers, together with the officers of national government, starting from the lowest administrative unit, in fact incorporating Nyumba Kumi, assistant chiefs, all of us are working together to identify the families and also to distribute the support that will be coming from various quarters, whether from county, national or other support groups, to make sure that we run a very transparent process. We are very clear that it will be zero tolerance to any pilferage, to any misdeed, and that information has also reached all the teams. And so we want to once more highlight the difficulty the county is going through. In fact, we are also seeing wildlife perishing, and so the effect of climate change is very sadly with us here.
Well, all right, you've added that just there from Lenko himself. It's about those counties that have been affected by drought, and of course, you know that the rainy seasons have actually the seasons have shifted, and not like earlier on when people normally had to predict about the rainy seasons in the country. With the man now telling us that we have to wait until when, we do not know. Well, that's just up for the news updates of what has been happening and what has been happening in the country in general. And of course, we've also looked at what has been trending concerning also the issue of fertilizer subsidies. Well, from here, Dennis Munene from our studios, I just take a very short, quick commercial break. in the Kirk in the morning right here. And of course, after this short quick commercial break, we'll be back, and of course we'll be right here back just to make sure that we discuss matters to do with the digital loans and mobile app loans, having 288 digital lenders in the country, but of course only 10 have been licensed. Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90 647.
Wakenya ni wapenda kazi na kila siku wapo mbioni kuchapa kazi. Kipindi cha Kazi na Mali ni rafiki, swahiba na kipenzi cha wachapakazi wote. Si jua kali tu. Kilimo shambani.
Kusema kweli, nguruwe ni wazuri.
Madini ya protein kwa huyu snail iko juu sana.
Biashara sokoni. Wajasiriamali wa aina zote, sanaa, wasanii. Guess what? It is business. Tunatembea nawe kila hatua ya uvumbuzi na ubunifu wako ili kujikimu na kukimu uchumi wa taifa. Kazi na Mali, sisi ndisi, Kirk TV, hapa ndipo.
What is to walk with God? To walk with God means to devote your life to Him. Praise Jesus. To devote your life to God. To give your life. Tell Jesus, Jesus, I have given your life. I have given my family. I have given you everything that I have so that I can serve you the way God you want. So to walk with God is to devote your life to Jesus like David Enoch devoted his life to God. To walk with God is to put your trust in Him. Hallelujah. To put your trust in Him.
The great people on earth today are the people who pray. Not those who talk about prayer or those who explain about prayer, but those who take time and pray.
God answers prayers. Why? Because He hears. His ear is not deaf, so He hears our prayers.
Men and women who go before God, we should be men and women of godly standards. Sure. So we abide, so that we keep tapping from the source.
But as we pray, it is important to tell God that your will be done in this prayer that I'm praying, or about this prayer item that I'm praying about. Not as I will, yes, this is my will, but let your will be done.
In these changing times and seasons of uncertainty, whom do you look up to?
God keeps His part. Calm rain, calm sunshine. God is still committed.
From one generation to another, and it's not like shifting shadows that He will change, but
Join Reverend Elizabeth Kimani and Henry Kyra every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. live on Kirk TV for Call Unto Me.
2021, He's still the same God and He has not changed.
Families should be the epitome of love. But in recent times, this seems like a dream because all we're witnessing is rape cases, high divorce rates, betrayal, and even murder.
So you have to protect her.
You say maintaining marriages because racism.
There are also many who are going through issues in their marriages and they can't run to anybody.
The issue of killing, the issue of murder seem to be on the rise.
And that is why we bring you Transforming Families, where we are all about just that, transforming families.
Umerejesha na furaha yangu moyoni, umenijibu kwa wakati isiyodhania.
Na wazazi wameona, wakaturuhusu kwa furaha, wakasema hey, tumewabariki na Mwenyezi Maulana atatubariki, tukazae na tule hey, hey. Watoto
kama hauchezi kwa nawi
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90 647.
We welcome your feedback on our programming. For questions or comments, kindly get in touch with us via email info@kirktv.org, SMS 011 220044 or call us on 0794 588 054.
Are you looking for a university that matches your drive and ambition? Choose ZTech University. We offer market-driven programs ranging from master's, bachelor's, diploma and certificate levels in the schools of ICT, Media and Engineering, Education, Arts and Social Sciences, and the School of Business and Economics. Enroll today for September 2022 intake and enjoy a vibrant student experience, ultra-modern and well-equipped facilities, experienced faculty, and a place to pursue your dreams and ultimately change the world. ZTech University. Invent your future.
The Presbyterian Teachers College Rubate is now offering training and upgrading of P1 and ECDE certificates to diploma and hereby invites all applicants for the September 2022 intake in the following teacher education programs: Diploma in Early Childhood Teacher Education, DECTE, required grade discipline in KCSE. Upgrade of P1 certificate to diploma, upgrade of early childhood teacher education ECDE to diploma. The reporting dates are as from 12th September to 12th October 2022 with the option of part-time classes available. For more information, please contact the principal through 0701 508 503 or their office line on 0720 312 021 and 0711 185 283.
what is to walk with God. To walk with God means to devote your life to Him. Praise Jesus. To devote your life to God. To give your life. Tell Jesus, Jesus, I have given your life. I have given my family. I have given you everything that I have so that I can serve you the way God you want. So to walk with God is to devote your life to Jesus like David Enoch devoted his life to God. To walk with God is to put your trust in Him. Hallelujah. To put your trust in Him.
Umerejesha na furaha yangu moyoni, umenijibu kwa wakati isiyodhania.
Na wazazi wameona, wakaturuhusu kwa furaha, wakasema hey, tumewabariki. Na Mwenyezi Maulana atatubariki, tukazae na tule hey, watoto.
Kama hauchezi kona wini.
Kirk in the morning. It's actually the show that we're having today, and of course some of the topics that we're going to unpack right now, just like I promised you earlier on, is topic and matters to do with digital lenders and mobile loans in the country. What is hitting or what is eating what in the mobile loans as far as loans and of course lenders and borrowers are concerned. Of course, on the bench is Francis Madea, a financial expert that we'll be having a conversation with today, a very candid one, of course, talking about what is happening in our banks and of course in our mobile banks. Welcome so much, Francis Madea, for actually joining this conversation. How are you?
Thank you. Good morning.
You're fine, huh?
I'm fine.
Well, the CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge yesterday said, it's actually not yesterday, but some few days ago, licensed, I think, 10 digital lenders in the country.
Yes.
Of course, we are talking about around 288 digital lenders in the country, mobile digital lenders in the country. There are many, talk of Tala, Fuliza, and what have you. Now, I don't know, what's your take on digital lenders in the country? They are so much in numbers, and of course we've heard that only 10 have been licensed.
Thank you for having me in studio, and I would say that the appetite for credit from by the young people renting through digital platform is a recipe of economic effects in the young people or the people that are affected by this branding. And when you see that particular appetite, you realize there is a gap. But the problem is that the gap that is there, of course, pushed by the hard economic times that we are in, should be coupled, from my end, from what I know, is that should be accompanied with the proper literature and civic education to the masses, so that they know the effect that it, because there are people, when they are desperate, would borrow from one platform to another, but these people, of course, have no ability to pay, because some of them are at home unemployed and they have to make calls, they have to make this small expenditures, and the only place they have resorted when the parents cannot finance is once they get a mobile phone, they know they have access to credit. It is a recipe of chaos if it is not coupled with proper civic education, for that when they do this uptake, somebody who is renting must also does his due diligence to see that does this person have the ability to pay. If it's a student in the university who is borrowing, what do you expect this person to pay? You are almost knowing for sure that this credit will be in the red in a few, 3, 4, and wonder quite a huge number of them are in CRB. But how many of them understand what the effects of being in the CRB? Yeah.
Well, now before we get to listen to some of the views of Kenyans about digital lending and of course these mobile loans, they normally nowadays call them soft loans.
Yeah.
Before we get to listen to that, I want you to maybe explain to us very briefly what are mobile loans. Maybe there's someone out there who do not understand what is a mobile loan.
A mobile loan is a loan that you easily get access. There are quite a number of them. We have institutions that have come in to allow you to borrow through the bank, through of course the digital platform. We have of course commercial banks. We have other like Safaricom. We have others like Tara. You know, those institutions that have come created platforms that are interactive, and you just see a pop-up. It is available 30,000 you can get for ABCD, 20,000, 100,000 you can get as easily as possible. If you have this, then you can get this. So those are kind of the platform that we are looking at. Yes.
So basically mobile loans are actually loans that you can access via your phone.
Yes.
Very easily, it's just need an app or maybe a link.
Yes, and that's it.
Right, now let's get to listen to some of the views from Kenyans of actually who head to state and gave us their feedback on mobile loans. Which do they prefer? Is it Mshwari? Is it Fuliza? Is it Branch? Is it Tala? Mention them. Let's get to listen before we get back to the...
Loan yangu ya kwanza kuchukua ilikuwa ya Nduthi. Nikalipia kwa miaka 2 na nikamaliza bike. So imenisaidia juu unajua sasa kutoa cash ni noma jo. So kuna venye loan inaokolea, unaona? Yeah. Kama una cash, una deposit, unapewa kitu, unalipa mdogo mdogo.
Fuliza hiyo Fuliza nishafuliza hiyo for Hawaii. Hiyo ni ile unapata Fuliza, unajua hiyo ni kitu unapata ngani shida kidogo imekutokelezea for Hawaii. Hiyo unaweza Fuliza. Kitu kama Punch nishafuliza 300 hivi. Lakini unajua hiyo ni kitu utarudisha hiyo.
Loan yenye nimeshaipata ni ya Tala. Na Tala ndio nishapata, lakini sijamalizia. Sasa shida moja tu ananipeleka mbio, lakini nimekaa for almost 2 years sijalipwa, na ilikuwa imebaki karibu 4,000 na shilingi 2.
Ya Tara sijachukua, lakini nimechukua hii ya Fuliza, lakini ile challenge pesa nilichukua na ilinisaidia, lakini nilipata challenge fulani juu hiyo pesa sijaweza kulipa hata wakati huu juu ya mambo ya corona na hizi mambo za uchaguzi yenye tulikuwa tumesimamishwa kazi kwanza. So biashara ilikuwa mzuri hapo mbeleni, lakini hiyo maneno ilileta sasa biashara ikarudi chini kidogo. So pesa ilinisaidia, lakini sijalipa bado.
Kwa maoni yangu loan ni mzuri. Loan inasaidianga mtu akiwa na shida. Loan inasaidia sana. Sasa shida tu ni sisi, vile nimekuambia awali, sisi wa Kenya tuko na shida moja. Wakati unapochukua pesa kurudisha inakuwa ngumu. Hii ndio inafanya hizo makampuni zingine zinaanza kuwa na wasiwasi, zinakuwa na wasiwasi vile wao wenye wamechukua loan watalipa aje, ama tutashinda tukiwapigia masimu. Lakini loan ni mzuri.
Okay, inategemea unaona kama unachukua kuja boost biashara yako inakuwa rahisi kulipa. Lakini kama biashara yako haiko stable, itakuwa ngumu sana kuweza kurudisha hiyo pesa. So itakuwa ni shida. Sasa ndio unaona watu wengi hata wameka kwa CRB ndio ulichukua na kulipa tena inakuwa ni shida. Yeah.
For example, mimi niliafford kuchukua kitu kama loan niweke hii biashara juu ya nini? Hii biashara za zingine ukiweka pesa ya loan, una vile saa zingine inaweza enda chini na saa zingine inuke, so ina depend na vile wewe unajiamini. So pesa ya loan kuchukua si mbaya, unaweza chukua ikusaidie, ama either mimi kwangu siwezi kubali kuchukua pesa ya loan cause kuna venye itanipeleka poa.
Maybe niseme fuliza but limit yangu ni kiasi, so maybe unapata ile time nimebakisha like to so nikiwa na shop sema anything, so napata nikilipa inanikata, of which spend that thing of fuliza cause interest unapata at some point as in wana benefit ni hata uchukue do alafu as in wani get, but hiyo interest ndio mimi upige hesabu.
Saa zingine unakopa loan, biashara unaenda kufanya, saa zingine inakataa, unaona? Na watu wa doni wanakudai. Unajua watambui hiyo. Wanataka ile yenye mmeagree, unaona? Yeah, so inabidi pia unakazana tu na hizo changamoto unawalipa.
Well, welcome back to the conversation about the mobile loan burden in the country. You've heard it from there, you know, you've heard it from those guys. They say, even though this thing is addictive, even though this thing we know it's costly, we just have to get the loans.
Yes.
I mean, what lures Kenyans to find themselves in such positions or in such situations? We've had most of them actually have used Fuliza for a very long time.
As I've said, that you've confirmed from these young people, I mean the masses, they are borrowing in an anticipation. They are borrowing in an anticipation to start a business that it will pick up, and then finally they will be able to pay. Kenya, we have never, especially in the commercial banks, reached to a level where you're given a loan based on the future projection. Loans in Kenya by all commercial banks are based on your trend analysis of the past, the way you have behaved, the way you've been banking your money, and no wonder they ask you for your statements for 6 months so that they can evaluate your financial backup and power before they lend you. These issues, when these people are borrowing, they are borrowing on a future anticipation, which for sure you know it's uncertain. And therefore financial literacy is a very critical issue in this country, that if we allow these people to continue lending, definitely what we are saying is that have we prepared these masses in terms of financial literacy, so that they are able now to know when I borrow, I can only borrow at this level. I can only borrow when I'm really certain that this is likely to happen. But you see, they are saying, they are telling you, yes, we borrow, but ile kitu iko ni that we are unable to thereafter to pay because of the economic hardship, because the business are not picking up as they expect them to pick up. So from the masses is a short-time benefit that pushes them to a level when they can no longer be seen as credit-worthy people. From the lenders, there is something they have leveraged on. They have leveraged, most of them, on communication. And since they know there is a fundamental right that somebody must call someone. So when you're given a freezer, you know once you top up for communications, then that money goes. So they have anchored on a fundamental right of Kenyans to communicate so that they can get. But I have not seen any of them calling for, calling for seminars, trainings, or even in the media to start training masses on the issue of literacy, financial literacy. So that's what I see is an unfortunate. I don't think we are training our Kenyans in the right direction. We should give them first the financial literacy so that they make an informed choice. But now they are making a choice by pushing off the economic hardship that are there, regardless of the economic or the ability to pay.
We are talking of around 77% of Kenyans who actually couldn't pay their loans according to the Central Bank of Kenya, that is around in 2019. That was a report released in 2019. About 77% of borrowers who've borrowed money from these digital lenders, they couldn't pay back. Now, do you think that these people who go to borrow, are they aware of the risks that they normally put themselves into, maybe if they do not pay back in time the loans that they've borrowed from the digital lenders?
You know, there are two areas, critical areas that, and I hope that the new government and President Ruto will do a clear articulacy of this matter. On one hand, the government, when it's giving you employment, it is telling you to accompany that kind of an employment with the Chapter 6 requirement, which one of the documents is the CRB certificate, clearance certificate. So on the other hand, the government will gag you from accessing that employment if your certificate shows that you are somebody who do not pay your loans. You can't be trusted to pay your loans. That is one end. On the other end, this person has not been given the financial literacy for him to understand this risk that even poses him not to get a future job because of his credit statements. So that's a challenge. And therefore, what I'm insisting is that can the masses, can we as a country do the financial literacy? Then the second thing is the government should do is, of course, they talk of the number of people they eject every year in terms of from the university, in terms of the qualifications. But after that, nobody has the data of where are these people now. What are they doing? So a government that has come should now do the honorable thing and tell every unemployed young person, because they have the data, they have the biodata that all organizations send when they are paying the PAYE. All those that are employed, you'll find them there. There are those, of course, in their formal business, the normal business. They mix their returns. The government can actually tell you who is employed and who is not employed by the data that we always send to the various institutions. But for those who are at home and are not employed, who are mainly casual rebels, they should deposit their CVs with the chiefs so that the government has a data base of every year who has gotten what job, who is not has that job. And therefore that becomes the masses that they should, with partnership with the private sector, start training, reorganizing them. And you know, I can tell you for a fact, keenness, you know, we focus on infrastructure development. Of course, what the government does, it looks at the health, how it's going to help the people in terms of health, education, those are the things. But the government sometimes invests little amount in terms of social rearrangement, because you need to organize these people in a simple way. For example, just take one group, the boda. They're in informal employment, and they are able to raise 200, 300, 1,000 in a day. Organize the boda because there is power in numbers. Organize them in such a way that they have systems that capture, like circles that capture digital savings. They're able to send 50 shillings per day. And that, at the end of the month, that person has 1,500. Together brought by the thousands that are in the boda, for example, you find you have a huge financial base. Then you can now adopt a strategy where you now rent this money to them at an interest rate, even if it is 5%, because it's their money. An interest rate of 7%. And that is how you mobilize that kind of credit, and you're able now to, empower them, so that as they reach to a level they can now borrow in the commercial banks, then you have what it takes. I remember one person that, a minister, who found some young people sleeping and because there are no jobs in a certain center. Behind them was a river that was flowing. Up the valley, there was people picking coffee. And he just stood there and looked at this young man and asked, "Why are you doing here?" He said, "We don't have work." And he said, "How much is a karai basin?" This much. "How much is it a baso?" This much. He went to the pocket and he gave them, I think, 200 shillings. And he told them, "Now do this. These people, that is the factory where they take coffee. Ensure that when they are passing here with a coffee basket to take to the factory, you ask them for their gown that they are putting on, the white gown that they use. Wash them. This is the river with water. Chota maji hapo, put them here, wash, and then they will pay you 20 bob as you do." A simple reorganization. By the time he went there a month after, that young man, the two of them, had employed other 10 youths washing the same clothes. And the business grew and grew. Government needs to take this biodata, this information from chiefs, start realleging. You have young people who are graduate of ICT. You only need to put them somewhere and give them an idea. They develop softwares that will help this country run in huge business. It's just a matter of reorganization. It's not an issue of lack of employment. You can sort unemployment almost 30-40% just by reorganizing these young people.
Right. Well, just like you've heard from the Vox Pops, of course, collected by my good friend Stephen Kimara, right there, good job that he did there. You've heard that different borrowers or different maybe youths and these people, when you told me, let me go and borrow these loans. Most of them have mentioned different lenders, and you wonder, do these lenders exist in the government's records? Are they in the record books? Because like the other day we had the CBK governor, Patrick Njoroge, saying that we've only licensed 10. And we are talking of 288 loan lenders in the country. Are Kenyans safe?
No, they are not. They are not because, you know, kama wewe ni mzee wa boma, you have your own homestead. The one of fundamental right is to ensure that your family is secure from any kind of threat. And that's how we've lived as a society. A government should and is supposed by our constitution to protect the Kenyan citizens that are the owners of the country by the constitution. So when we have these huge, I will call predators, picking from our people that are not licensed or are not monitored, what do we expect? These are predators giving an interest of 30%, 20%. And because of the desperate situation that the Kenyans are going through, they will take this loan and they will pay with that 30%. But who is to blame? It is the institutions that the government has created that should monitor this kind and crack them down. So that if they are frozen, because the digital platform, Safaricom has the ability, for example, as an institution that offers these particular platforms, have the facility to ensure that this does not happen through, of course, the instruction of the government legally. So I think that protection should not even be questioned. They should be cracked down, and only those that are licensed, so that they are also monitored and they are also given specific that this is what we expect, the threshold that we expect. We must train, we must see you in social media, we must see you in platforms, the TV stations, training the masses on financial literacy.
Right.
Yes.
So we're having a problem because actually I was, my director, Joseph Kalunda, was actually today in the morning telling me that, he was just joking around with me, telling me that he can also, you know, launch his own digital lending platform.
That's right, yes.
Is it that free anyway? Is it that easy?
It is, you see, when you're in the ICT, as a guru in ICT, many people in Kenya are not well literate in terms of the ICT matters. So those who know how to do it, if there is no control, everybody will go and start doing that. We have, for example, so many unlicensed lenders in the villages. That you go there, somebody, you go with your TV and he gives you 10,000. And the next time you go with your title and give, you get 20,000. So they are all over. But the financial crackdown needs to be done because they are just exploiting. I saw another young man the other day in the chief. He had actually almost sold the entire land of the family land, because every time he will go sign an arrangement, because this title is already with him, he takes to that render and he says, now add 1 more acre in this agreement, and he's given money. So the owners was now, the person was saying, I want to execute a transfer. You see that kind of a thing. So it is actually the safeguard that should be put in place so that the government has protected the citizens, as it were.
All right, at this point, we take a very short and quick commercial break. Of course, we'll be back, maybe looking at what are your opinions and what are your concerns. Of course, before we go to the short, quick commercial break right here, I have a comment that is... this guy has just texted me via WhatsApp. He says, he's called James from Mombasa, and he says, you'll respond to this later. What is the current situation of mobile loans, bearing the fact that we feel frustrated with their persuasive SMSs to apply, and once done, they send almost 100 SMSs as a daily reminder? You'll respond to that once we get back. Just keep it Kirk TV right here. We're handling a topic to deal with mobile loans burden in the country. Keep it Kirk TV.
The great people on earth today are the people who pray. Not those who talk about prayer or those who explain about prayer, but those who take time and pray.
God answers prayers. Why? Because He hears. His ear is not deaf, so He hears our prayers.
Men and women who go before God, we should be men and women of godly standards. So we abide. So that we keep tapping from the source.
But as we pray, it is important to tell God that your will be done in this prayer that I'm praying, or about this prayer item that I'm praying about. Not as I will, yes, this is my will, but let your will be done.
In these changing times and seasons of uncertainty, whom do you look up to?
God keeps His part. Calm rain, calm sunshine. God is still committed.
From one generation to another, and it's not like shifting shadows that He will change. But
join Reverend Elizabeth Kimani and Henry Kyra every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. live on Kirk TV for Call Unto Me.
2021, He's still the same God, and He has not changed.
Wakenya ni wapenda kazi na kila siku wapo mbioni kuchapa kazi. Kipindi cha Kazi na Mali ni rafiki, swahiba na kipenzi cha wachapakazi wote. Si jua kali tu. Kilimo shambani.
Kusema kweli, nguruwe ni wazuri.
Madini ya protein kwa huyu snail iko juu sana.
Biashara sokoni. Wajasiriamali wa aina zote, sanaa, wasanii. Guess what? It is busy. Tunatembea nawe kila hatua ya uvumbuzi na ubunifu wako ili kujikimu na kukimu uchumi wa taifa. Kazi na Mali, sisi ndisi, Kirk TV, hapa ndipo.
right, welcome back right here, Kirk in the Morning with me, Dennis Munene, and of course, Francis Mathea, a financial expert, right here just to help me understand what is happening, what is eating the other in the mobile loans and digital lending industry. Of course, it's an industry that is growing at a very, very, very high rate. Now, let's go to that question that was posed to you by James Odhiambo from Mombasa. He says that once these people want us to borrow loans from them, they are so good, calm, they do not awasumbui. But once you just borrow the loan from them, they are on you. Daily messages, as if you do not know that you're supposed to pay. How is that?
These people, the lenders know the risk that is involved in just lending to a person you have never seen. And the only platform that they have, they leverage on two things. They leverage one on psychology, and number two, they leverage on communication. Those are their two tools. So they know when you're afraid of looking at your phone, you'll always see the message. And it keeps disturbing your brain that you must pay, that you must pay, that you are told to pay. So just like that woman who bothered the king in the Bible, and the king decided to sort him, to sort her, not that because he wanted to, but because it was a bother. They now leverage on that psychology that you have no choice but to pay to avoid those messages that are threatening, that are putting you into CRB. The second thing is that they know you must communicate on your mobile phone. Today, without a phone is like you cannot communicate. So they know for sure you must use that line to communicate. So based on those two anchors, they now fixed you. The issue is when you borrow, do you have the ability to pay? Because dawa ya deni ni kulipa. So they have done you good by giving you that credit that you really needed. But thereafter, it is the onus of you to pay. So if you lack the financial literacy or that understanding, then it becomes a burden to you. And that's why my colleague, the viewer, is saying they are disturbing. Yes, they are disturbing because you have not paid. So the onus is pay so that you get out of this mess. Yes.
Okay, the producer is posing a question that has also been posed in our social media handles, and someone is asking, these lenders, most of them, they normally go out of bound to actually call, maybe if you give guarantors, if actually they provided a place whereby you're going to provide guarantors, they call everyone, each and everyone, and different people respond differently. Someone will say, I had borrowed 5,000, but it amounted up to 20,000. And then unfortunately, then the lender calls the wife. And then the wife is told, your husband or your spouse owes us 20,000. I mean, why do they call the spouse instead of the one who borrowed the loan? Is it lawful?
You know, as I said to you, when you go to the bank, you give a security. You give a collateral, and in the event you don't pay, the bank will only notify you twice or thrice. And then they will sell the security and recover their money. Now, this mobile digital platform, they have a security. What is the security? They have a security of your comfort. They have your psychological support, because they know you don't like being embarrassed. So they have leveraged on that. They have leveraged on your, of course, on your communication, because you must communicate. These are their securities. So your comfort will be distorted because you are not paying. That's why if you are called, your neighbor will be called, the one that you serialize, so that they must get their money. So that psychological effect, that psychological torture, within the context of the freedom that is envisaged in the Constitution, is not legal, is not lawful, and then no wonder there are so many that are not yet licensed. Because when you are licensed, there are protocols that you are supposed to follow, so that you try to enforce that payment. But no, when now they have joined any manner of lender then you'll be subjected to all this manner of abuse. Yeah.
So tactic number 1, play around with your psychology.
Yes, tactic number 1, pray about your psychology.
All right.
Tactic number 2, pray with your social status.
All right.
Strategy number 3, pray about with your communication.
Okay. Well, those are 3 strategies that maybe if you're watching and maybe if you're just a defaulter or these people, you owe them some money, just know that those are some of the 3 strategies that maybe they can use or they use frequently. I know most of you have had an experience with these lenders in the country. Now we're going to have Vox Pops from various Kenyans. Of course, we're also giving us their view and of course the solutions of how they can evade these mobile loans and these digital platforms. Work good done by none other but Stephen Kibara. Let's listen.
Unaona kama for example uchukue loan useme unataka kuweka biashara, unajua ina depend na ile pesa umepewa ni how much. Unaweza pewa ka 10k, na hii biashara ni biashara nyingine funny sana. Ukipata do pewa 10k unasema naweka 5000 kwa job, unajua hiyo pesa nyingine umekula ama umeserereka. Unajua sasa ndo maana nakwambia hapa utasaidika sasa. So inataka umejika kama kutoka chini. Kisha toka chini ndo unajuanga hii biashara vile utasave pesa yako, vile unaenda soko yako ya kuweka ni gani, yako ya kutumia ni gani, hivyo sawa. Utapata umeseparate pesa yako vizuri sana. Lakini sasa pesa ya loan hiyo ni kwangu yenyewe noma.
Fuliza mimi sijaitumia Fuliza, lakini mama kwangu ndio akona Fuliza, so yeye ndio udili na hizo. Kuna venye inamuokoleanga za zingine kama tuko down, pia inaokoleanga Fuliza.
Kitu inafanya nachukua hiyo loan sababu unaweza kufika mahali umekwama, inabidi uingie kwa app, udownload hiyo app, uchukue loan, ndio ipanue hiyo biashara yako. Sasa shida moja, sisi kama wa Kenya tuko na shida moja. Wakati kuchukua loan unachukua na roho safi, lakini shida ya kulipa ndio inasumbua. Hiyo ndio inafanya tunaharibia hizo makampuni za kupeana loan.
Tungeomba tu serikali iingilie kati hizi Fuliza zenye tuko nayo, kwanza watulipie, alafu sasa wakitulipia maisha itaendelea mzuri juu tutakopa zingine, na sasa biashara itaenda mzuri juu hakuna hizo corona zimepungua.
Hii hali ya maisha ndio imefanya tumeshindwa kulipa loan, na pia imefanya mpaka watu wa loan wamekataa kutupatia loan, sababu kulingana vile maisha imekuwa worse than yenye tujayoona. Maisha ilikuwa mzuri wakati wa mzee mwenye alienda rais wa pili. Hiyo wakati huyo mzee alikuwa mzuri na maisha tulikuwa tunahangaika, na hiyo wakati loan hazikuwa. Lakini sasa vile huyu mzee alienda, tukapata serikali ya Kibaki ikawa mzuri kidogo, lakini sasa ya huyu kijana wetu Uhuru Kenyatta na William Ruto William Ruto tujajua, lakini ya Uhuru Kenyatta pia hii serikali yake imekuwa wasi. Lakini tunaomba Mungu ya huyu Ruto itatubadilishia maisha.
Ni biashara kuanguka juu ya economy vile iko, maisha ni magumu sana, kama vitu ya chakula bei, kila kitu bei iko juu, fare ndio hiyo, mambo yote iko juu. Sasa unakuta uko na kitu kidogo chenye unapata unatumia kwa matumishi yote inaisha.
Inaweza advise watu maybe on the side of loans, si mbaya kama unachukua ya kuimprove biz ni sawa, but kama unachukua ya kuanza biz I mean don't do that, because biashara at some point ukianza you never know the outcome. So maybe uchukue ya kuongeza stock na vitu kama hizo, but hiyo si mbaya.
Alright, good job there Stephen Kibara. Of course you hear Bwana Francis Madea, watu wanachukua loan, wengine wanaenda kuserereka, and others of course they are pledging with the government, and they're really pleading with the government of William Ruto to actually intervene before things get much more worse. You remember that the president himself said that atashughulikia mambo ya CRB. Is that possible with CRB?
Let me say that dawa ya deni ni kulipa.
Okay.
No matter what. Because even if the president reigns on CRB to lift those who have already been arrested in the CRB, the owners will be the lenders. They will finally catch up with the borrower. Mm-hmm. Whether they will go through the registration process, They will have a database that they want to enforce. And finally, somebody will have to pay that debt. So the issue of trying to dodge or not dodge will never arise, because you may dodge in the short run. But in the long line, the law will catch up with you. Because the one thing that the lenders do, they ensure that in that mobile lending platform, you have committed yourself in such a manner that you cannot evade, even in the court of law.
Right.
So the onus is to pay.
Okay. So now let's focus on maybe what could be the solutions of these long-term menace that Kenyans have been finding themselves into. It's actually such type of I don't know how to call it, but it's at a point whereby Kenyans cannot walk out anymore. We are talking of 288 lending platforms, and these are the only known ones. Of course, tunajua kuna zingine mingi, and we have only 10 that have been approved and licensed by the CBK. I mean, how can Kenyans now evade from finding themselves in these miasma of borrowing money from digital platforms?
The issue here is fixing the economy and fixing the unemployment issue. And if you fix the unemployment part, then you'll have very little people borrowing. So, as I said earlier, let's reorganize our young people. There was a talk during the campaigns by our president that he would give the hustler, he would create a hustlers fund of 50 billion, for example. If such a fund is well managed, and then you've put these people into the categories of their qualification. You have this number of who have graduated from TVET, you have this number who are graduates, who have this, you have this who left. Now these days we are happy in the education because we have almost 100% transition from primary to secondary, and therefore even if you have many not going to the university, but you have also a huge number going to TVETA and these tertiary colleges. So the precipitate that you may get maybe from 4 dropouts are getting minimal by the day. So in a nutshell, you'll find that Kenya, you'll have quite a number of masses have the certificate, what it calls for you to get a job or to do, to actively participate in the formal employment. If the government now takes chance, even without funding, to reorganize these young people in categories of this, and it has a database that in this county we have 2 million Kenyans or 1 million Kenyans who are employed, but they are categorized in this. They will now develop programs that directly impact to that category. And not necessarily you may realize that you only required to inject just a small capital. And these people, because Kenyans are very industrious, they will start now leveraging and working. You do 3 things. You establish what product they are likely to do based on their competence. What is the market that this product is going to be sold? And 3, the intermediaries that requires this process to happen. So you fix that.
All right.
Then you let them flow.
All right.
And you'll find that they are now, we have the employment. And then, of course, start the industrializations and those other institutions that the government can be able to start to absorb as many as possible.
Okay. We are aware that the Central Bank of Kenya, through its Governor Patrick Njoroge, started now the issue of licensing these creditors. What do you think could be the impact of these loan lenders being regulated?
Regulation is very good because when you are regulated, you are also given some protocols that which you must operate in. And fundamental protocols are that you must also do due diligence to this person you are lending. Just that the bank do their due diligence when they are lending. In the digital, you must also do their due diligence. For example, a Fuliza person, go to M-Pesa yake, if you have access to that. How is the behavior? Has he been receiving some level of income that you can leverage on? that this person, you have the ability with this kind of income is going to be able to do. Then you must establish contacts. That's just don't lend money in the air. Establish contact that's in the nearest institution somewhere. Somebody can actually go there and do that, create that contact. If the contact is not there, then you must be sure of what is this that, so that you also have a due regard to this person, so that he doesn't, he has the ability to pay, so that you don't default. At the same time, you have a duty of care to that person not going to the CRB. So those two must meet. Yep.
Well, very briefly now, moving on forward, of course, with the solutions of these menace that we're having about. It's a story that started running since 2019 until today. It is becoming now a problem in the country. Now, I don't know, what's your take on, because we have the Bankers Association of Kenya saying that it is the regulation and it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that the consumers are well protected, and of course they are aware of these loan lenders and these creditors. Now, briefly, as we wind up, I do not know, what is your side, or what is your take on the issue of uniform rates? Because with the regulation, now that means that we'll have uniform rates being given by these creditors. How will it impact the creditors?
You know, uniform rates by the lenders will create a monopoly as it is today. As the regulations, for example, today, most of the banks regulated, they give loans at 13%, 14%. There was a time it was capped at that level. And then when you have a unified rate, then the terms of giving, if they are not similar, that will determine where people go for to lend or to borrow. Of course, it's a good thing, because you'll protect the exploitation from the bare minimum of 13, people lending at 30 and thereafter. So the cost of lending will go down by these regulations. That's which is a positive thing, so to speak. But on the other end is we are addressing the symptoms. Let's address the sickness, because the moment we shall address the sickness, then we are healed. We will have no those challenges. People will borrow ethically from commercial banks, and even if when you borrow to the digital platform, you are assured that that money is going to be paid back. We have about over 77% of money lenders, defaulters in this country in that mobile lending. So 77% is money that was given by institutions to people whom they have refused to pay. That's a big impact. You're talking about more than 3 billion that is out there given to the masses, but they are not willing to pay. So even the sustainability, the going concern of those institutions are now checked. They are not sure that they will sustain this kind of arbitrary lending, and therefore needs to be checked, as it were.
All right, at this point, those are very constructive insights from Francis Samathea. He's a financial expert who had actually come in here just to help me unpack all these issue about the issue to do with the mobile loans burden in the country. Now, the producer poses a very quick one about what could be the advice from you as a financial expert, of course, from where you sit, briefly, to these people, you know, if you want to go and borrow loans, what's your advice, briefly?
My advice is that before you get that platform and borrow whatever amount you want to borrow, the first thing is that you should ask yourself, how will I pay this loan? Ethics dictates that you do not borrow with that intention to default. It is not right ethically, and even the eyes of God is not right. So borrow when you know you can pay. If you cannot pay, look for an alternative. Look for a grant from a friend, and with a specific agenda that I'm starting this small business, this is how I expect it to behave. Those who can trust that, then they will be ready to work with you so that you pick up. Secondly, scan the environment. business starting does not require money. I can tell you for a fact. Good idea, you'll find quite a number of people willing to fund good ideas. So look at SCAN. Do look for a person who can help you interpret some of the environmental issues that are facing. And we always say that when you see a gap in the society, that is a challenge, think how you address that gap, money will follow you.
All right.
That's why Bill Gates.
All right.
That is why they are all billionaires. Because they don't look for money. They look for human solution. When you are looking for a solution, money will follow you.
All right.
Thank
Wow. That's a very constructive, of course, and a very constructive submission from Francis Mathea, a financial expert who will help me unpack this issue of mobile loans and mobile loans pattern in the country. Now, at this point, I want to conclude the show, and I also want to appreciate a lot of people who have also helped this show come to this point. I want to appreciate people like Stephen Kibara, of course, who did a very good job. I want to appreciate you, Francis Mathea, of course, for coming in today.
Thank you.
And I also want to appreciate my super producer, Aida Munzatsi, and of course the technical team led by Joseph Kalunda, Davis, and of course Jeremy Como, and of course the other crew of Kirk TV. At this point, I want to leave you with the other programming of Kirk TV. I was sitting in for Vincent Kerosi, and my name is Dennis Munene.